Americana Press here. Hey, takeaways from the Brown shooting, the university there, the press conference. Law enforcement did a good job. Um, they were very articulate once they had information. When they were getting lambasted and just totally destroyed online and to their faces, it was because they didn't have any information, so they didn't have it. They did not have any answers. When you're asked a question and you're in that position and you don't have an answer, it doesn't look good for you, right? The lack of information is due to a lack of cameras, which isn't law enforcement's call. I believe that's a presidency thing or whoever owns the school, right? The board or somebody. I don't know how that college is set up. I haven't dug into it that far. Um, the cameras should have been there, right? You go to 7-Eleven, you go into Walmart, there's cameras everywhere. And yet in a college where there's human beings you're trying to protect, no cameras. So tells you what's more important. Is it Walmart's produce and their products, or is it the human beings in a college that are more important? So as far as where this guy came from, he came from Portugal, I believe it was. It was he Portuguese? I keep thinking Cuba in my head, but I doubt it's Cuba. But he's not from the United States, and he didn't come from a terrorist country. He didn't. So it doesn't make any sense, right? The the things I'm looking at, where are the important factors is he was into physics. He knew things, right? He tried to get a weapon, a whole bunch of other things. Um, so immigration, he was legally here, so they say, but whatever, if you're not a naturalized citizen, how are you still here, right? So, and he came in 2018 or 20, I got to look at the dates again, but he was like 40 or 50 years old. He was here for a long time. He was legally here under their, if you think of a leftist, they say there are no illegal people. So who knows what that means. And he overstayed a visa. He never got his citizenship, or at least they never brought that up. But the thing they kept saying was they found out who he was from cameras in the parking lot, matched the description of the guy that approached him, right? But nothing, they never had a conversation about internal cameras, which means they didn't get anything because there's not enough cameras to get anything. Okay. There's a flaw in their security. They also stated in that press briefing that they were concerned for the safety and the welfare of the students. And maybe they are. Maybe they just are incompetent and they don't know how to pull security, right? Um, Security, you want to see their face coming and going. You want to catch their backside as they're leaving and going. You want to catch every detail of a person entering and exiting your building. You want to catch every detail of a person entering and exiting your parking lot. Okay? The only reason we got any information at all is because of doorbell cameras. The general public has a surveillance state set up, and evidently they we had the information. We had enough information to find out where he was, who he was, and put two and two together, right? But not because of anything the school did, other than maybe a parking lot camera and then an interaction with the student. The student who interacted with him is lucky to be alive. That's one more name that could have been added to that casualty list. And, pull a gun, say get in the car and drive away. It might have gave some more information, right? But then that witness is gone. So cameras inside. Internal security was failed. The students were failed by that college, by the internal or lack of security inside that building. Police response are always good. Police are really good at responding accurately. I don't know. So it depends on the police department, right? The agency. If you think of Uvalde, that was terrible. That was horrible. And sometimes that's how they act. That's how they react. Let's see. There was a hostile reporter in there. I don't know if he was a reporter or somebody, but there's another individual. So right directly behind the microphone to the left, tall gray suit, skinny dude. I think he was wearing glasses. Maybe I'm characterizing this guy in something not a very good public relations cool head. He's just bossy and rude and telling people to shut up and enough of you, totally violating the First Amendment. And then there's another guy off to the right, big heavy set, not heavy set, but a big stocky guy. He at the beginning of the press conference, he goes, I was a little short with people, but you know how I can be if you've known me for very long at all. So he's a little hostile, right? Typical, emotionally unintelligent, if that's a thing. They might know their job, they might be good at their job, but when it comes to dealing with the First Amendment and letting people talk, if you make them mad, they shut you up, they don't care about your constitutional rights, that would fall under the label of tyrant, right? The officers that were there, the cops that were there in uniform, I'm noticing something here where I'm not going to say it. You guys know what I'm saying. The officers did a really good job. It's nice to have somebody that can speak Spanish. I mean, if you arrest somebody that no habla inglés, they only habla español, you need to be able to habla español muy un poquito, no? Yeah, you should be able to speak Spanish a little bit. And when the reporters in the back asked questions in Spanish and responded back, he told everybody what they said. I loved that. That was great. Which is how it should be, right? Those officers are professionals. Are they good at their job? I don't know. If I was an officer on that campus and I saw there were I would have been saying something. I would have been writing letters saying, "Hey, we need more security cameras in these buildings because of this situation." Because you already know that. You already have a security mindset, right? But Brown University, as a university, failed those students. After the fact, it's easy to nitpick and go after people, right? But here's my biggest critical, actually, besides the cameras not being there or operational or whatever, lack of evidence collection, right? Lack of internal security. That's number one. Number two is the response of some of the officials. Very anti-free speech, very anti-First Amendment. And they'll say, no, I'm for it. I'm like, then why, as a government official in an official position, are you hostile towards people that are within their rights? Whether they had good manners or not doesn't matter. The First Amendment, in and as of itself, is antagonistic. That's the point. And the reporter, bad manners, maybe emotionally a little loose, crazy, getting mad. Not able to, here's a better way not able to contain their anger. Horrible way to approach law enforcement and people like that. You ask them with a smile on your face and a very pleasant tone the uncomfortable question. So when they lash out at you, now it's all on them, right? But it needs to be done. The one officer, or I think he's an officer, I'd have to watch, once again, I'd have to watch that press briefing to know who everybody is. I've never met these people, so I don't know their position, their rank, or whatnot, their history. But they totally lost my train of thought. Oh, the attacks on the information coming off the internet, people making speculation, people saying and spreading rumors. Guess what, officer? That's part of law enforcement. Get over yourself. You don't get to dictate what's said on the internet to make yourself feel better. Does it throw the investigation? Yes. Can it leak information? Yes. It can ruin it. Yes, it can. But once again, you had to rely on all that information, and I'm glad you got it to stop the bad guy, right? You had to rely on that information from outside sources because your sources were lacking. That was heavily covered in the press briefing too, the lack of cameras. But I heard one person ask the question, is like, what are you guys going to do about it? I don't think we've got a real good answer. But the internet is now the new traditional public forum. It's more of a limited public forum, kind of a private space. So it's kind of this weird area. But I think the Supreme Court has ruled that, like Facebook, Reddit, all your social media sites, because everybody uses them to communicate, we have set historical precedent that everybody uses it for that purpose, is traditional public forum. Even if you own the space, you can't shut people up. Now, if they violate your rules, then you can shut them and you can kick them off, right? Which would make it more of a limited public forum, right? You're allowed to be on here so long as you follow these rules of decorum. Now, in the press conference, same thing happened. Rowdy reporter in the back, badgering some of the officers because they were doing a terrible job or whatnot, however he put it, okay? Questioning them, but he was very hostile. The guy not my favorite guy, all right? I'm laughing because I want to call him names, and I'm really curbing my enthusiasm here. Center left of the microphone, gray suit, tall, skinny, bossy guy. He's quiet most of the time. But he tells this guy, what does he say? That's enough. You're done. Get him out of here, right? Did they remove him from a press conference right at the very end? What purpose did that serve? Just let the guy ask his question and then be done with it. Let him talk, let him make a fool of himself, and then boot him quietly without making a scene. The press conference was over anyway. And my question here, I'm wondering, is why did they pick him very, very last and then cut him off? He got cut off because he was rude, but I think there's more to it. I think he got cut off because they didn't want him to ask questions that they didn't like being asked, and his bad manners gave them an excuse to shut him up. And the public and everybody be okay with it. I am not, however, okay with it. I think they violated his Fourth Amendment rights. Unless it was a limited public forum, right? All of this comes together and shows how effective the public is at being able to gather the evidence and get it to the officers and let them know what's going on. But as a public, if we want true justice in this country, we have to be, one, polite while we're in a press briefing, two, not blabbing it all over the internet. Speculation, okay. Telling everybody what the officers know before they've got the subject, probably not a good idea, guys. Did I do it? I don't know. I have to go back and review myself. But once again, that's on me, right? I'll go back, review my stuff, and go, I wouldn't do that again, because I value a good investigation. I value the truth, so we should all value that. But Brown University, and they were not attacking the First Amendment initially, or at least it didn't appear to be. But in the press briefing, it definitely was an attack on the First Amendment. The First Amendment rights they were not respected in that meeting at all. They let you talk if they liked what you're saying. They don't want you to talk if they don't like what you're saying. And the hotheads they're hostile towards talking on the internet and in a press briefing. And that came out that the Rhode Island State Troopers, Providence City Police, they're hostile. Brown University Police, they're hostile. Every one of them's hostile towards the First Amendment because they don't like you talking. Now, as an officer, former officer, keeping the information quiet is better than letting everybody know. And I understand that. But when everybody's making speculation, guess what? Cat's already out of the bag. The internet makes it really hard to keep a tight lid on information. If you have information, you got to keep your mouth shut. However, sometimes it can play into your favor. So without making this a 15, 20-minute video, I'm going to call this good. Like, share, subscribe, comment. Give me a thumbs up. Comments, guys. Help me out here. If I see traction, I'll do more than just talking head here. So I will go out and gather up stories. Done it before, and it's a lot of fun. It's nerve-wracking at first, but it's a lot of fun. So anyway, this is Americana Press, out.